All praises to the Most High. And first and foremost, I want to give all honor and glory to Yahweh, Bashem Hamashiach, Yahweh Shai. And I'm going to do this lesson titled, Yahweh Controls the Spirits of All Flesh. And I'm going to start with the book of Genesis, chapter 1, verses 1 through 4, and it reads, In the beginning, Yahweh created the heavens and the earth. And the earth was without form, and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. And the Spirit of Yahweh moved upon the face of the waters. Verse 3, And Yahweh said, Let there be light, and there was light. Verse 4, And God, Yahweh, saw the light, that it was good, and Yahweh divided the light from the darkness. And we know that, when he talks about the light and the darkness in the Bible, there is night and day, but when he's talking about light, that's talking about walking in righteousness, and darkness, wickedness. And from there, I'm going to go to the book of Isaiah. Book of Isaiah, the prophet Isaiah, chapter 45, and I'm going to read verse 6 through 7. And it reads, That they may know from the rising of the sun and from the west, that there is none besides me. I am the Lord, and there is none else. So the prophet Isaiah is speaking, and he's talking about Yahweh's attributes. Verse 7, he says, I formed the light. Just like he said in Genesis chapter 1. He said, I form the light and create darkness. I make peace and create evil. I, the Lord, do all these things. So he's the one that controls everything. But he does give us a choice, but he's controlling. He's controlling us all. The Most High is in control. He's controlling even those wicked people. He's allowing them to do what they're doing because he's using the wicked as his sword to punish our people. That's what he's doing, letting those wicked people have that power. He's using them as the whipping stick. But everything is being controlled by him. And from there, I'm going to go to the book of Romans, chapter 9, verse 19 to 21. Apostle Paul, Romans chapter 9, verse 19 to 21. And it reads, Thou wilt say then unto me, Why doth he yet find fault? For who hath resisted his will? And then verse 20, Nay, but O man, who art thou that repliest against Yahweh? Shall the thing formed say to him that formed it, Why hast thou made me thus? So he is the potter, we're the clay. We can't question him on his motives or why he's doing anything. Verse 21, Hath not the potter power over the clay, of the same lump to make one vessels unto honor, and another unto dishonor? Now he's going back into the time of Jacob and Esau. He's talking about he made one a vessel of honor, and one a vessel of dishonor. Esau is that vessel of dishonor, but he's still the one that made him. And he's controlling everybody. He's the one that controls the spirits of all flesh. That's why I titled this lesson this. And from there, I'm going to go back to Genesis. Going back to the beginning with Moses. But we know that Moses he got all the laws, statutes, and commandments from Yahweh. So Genesis chapter 1, and I'm going to read verse 14. And it reads, And God said, Let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and years. So he's speaking about how he uses his, the things, his attributes of the things he made, so that you can tell the time of the seasons, like the moon, the sun. He's using that, saying how he created all those things so we can use it in its seasons. And from there, I'm going to go to Genesis chapter 2. I'm going to stay in Genesis, and I'm going to read chapter 2, verse 1 through 3. And then it reads, Thus the heavens and the earth were finished, and all the host of them. Verse 2. And on the seventh day Yahweh ended his work, which he had made. And he rested on the seventh day from all his work, which he has made. So the Lord is talking about that Sabbath day, the Shabbat now. That's why we can do any working and do buy, selling, trading, anything in those 6 days. But on the seventh is a day of rest, because he completed making the heavens and the earth. So that's why it's a day of rest. Verse 3, and Yahweh blessed the seventh day and sanctified it, because that in it he had rested from all his work, which Yahweh created and made. So he's explaining himself. This is why the Sabbath is so important, why people, how he's so upset when people go out and dishonor the Sabbath, when they're out there doing all these things contrary to the scriptures, buy, selling, trading, drinking, doing anything that he said not to do on the Shabbat. That's what he's talking about. He doesn't want us doing those things. He wants us to do it in those 6 days, but on the seventh is a Sabbath of rest. And from there, I'm going to stay in Genesis chapter 2, and I'm going to just jump down to verse 7. And the Lord Yahweh formed man of the dust of the ground, and breathed into his nostrils a breath of life, and man became a living soul. So now this is when we came in. He breathed into the nostrils of Adam. He breathed the laws, statutes, and commandments. That's what he did, and that's what we were supposed to do, keep them. And from there, Genesis. I'm going to stay in Genesis chapter 2. I'm just going to jump down to verse 16 through 17. And it reads, and the Lord God commanded man, saying, of every tree of the garden thou mayest freely eat. Verse 17, but of the tree of knowledge of good and evil thou shalt not eat of it. For in the day that thou eatest thereof, thou shalt surely die. So remember, he told us that when he's using the trees, Yahweh said a tree is known by its fruit. So we're not supposed to go with any different doctrines or ideologies. We were supposed to stick to what he told us. But what had happened from the beginning, our people started going off and following other nations and heathens, getting into their ideology and doctrines. This is what had happened. And from there, I'm going to go to Matthew, to Yahushua. Matthew chapter 7. Because this is what he said from verse 17 through 20. Let's see what Yahushua said. And it reads, even so, every good tree bringeth forth good fruit, but a corrupt tree bringeth forth evil fruit. This is what Yahushua was, Yahushua was saying everything Yahweh said. This is what he was saying from the beginning. Verse 18, a good tree cannot bring forth evil fruit, neither can a corrupt tree bring forth good fruit. So he was telling, that's why he said, don't follow those other trees, their ideology, their doctrine. Stick to my doctrine. That's what he was saying. Verse 19, every tree that bringeth not forth good fruit is hewn down and cast into the fire. And hewn just means chopped. It's just chopped down and cast into the fire. So that's what Yahushua was saying. And verse 20, I'll just go there. It says, wherefore by their fruits you shall know them. You're going to know the people by the way they live, the way they act, and the doctrine they're pushing. If it's not of this, the scriptures, how he said it, that's not the right doctrine. That's why he said, if any man will do his will, in John, they shall know of the doctrine. That's what he was saying. So from there, I'm going to go to the book of Ezekiel. Ezekiel chapter 18. And I'm going to read verse 4. The prophet Ezekiel. And that reads, behold, this is Ezekiel chapter 18, verse 4. Behold, all souls are mine. As the soul of the Father, so also the soul of the Son. is mine. The soul that sinneth, it shall die. So he's making a distinction and letting it be known that he told us what to do, and he said the soul that sinneth is the one that's going to die. So that's why it's important and so urgent for parents and us dads to teach their sons and their daughters to train them up in the scriptures, because he said to train up a child in the way they should go, and when they get older they will not depart from it. But if they don't listen and you've done that, then it's on them, because that's what he said. Let me read that again. Verse 4, Ezekiel 18 verse 4, and it reads, behold, all souls are mine. As the soul of the Father, so also the soul of the Son is mine. The soul that sinneth, it shall die. So once you've done your very best, that's all you can do. You're supposed to train them up with these oracles, and if they start going off, he's saying what he's going to do. It's on them. They have to, once they're of age, they have to start doing what the Lord said. They have to keep the commandments. And from there, I'm going to go back to Moses in Exodus 20. Exodus chapter 20, verse 8 through 11. And that reads, remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. Verse 9, 6 days shalt thou labor and do all thy work. Verse 10, but the 7th day is the Sabbath of the Lord thy God Yahweh. In it thou shalt not do any work, thou nor thy son, nor thy daughter, thy manservant, nor thy maidservant, nor thy cattle, nor thy stranger that is within thy gates. So he's saying everybody in your household, they're supposed to be doing what he said through the commandments. Verse 11, for in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea and all that is in them, Salaki, and all that in them is, and rested the 7th day. Wherefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it. So this is why this Sabbath is so important, because he rested on that day. He created the heavens and the earth, and then he rested on that Sabbath day. And now I'm going to go to the book of Isaiah, chapter 58, and I'm going to read verse 13 through 14. Isaiah 58, verses 13 through 14. And it reads, if thou turn away thy foot from the Sabbath, from doing thy pleasure on my holy day, and call the Sabbath a delight, the holy of the Lord honorable, and shall honor him, not doing thine own ways, nor finding thine own pleasure, nor speaking thine own words. So he's saying if we just, deny ourselves and just keep the Sabbath holy. Don't do anything. Separate from all the stuff they're doing. Do what he said on the Sabbath. Then he said in verse 14, then shalt thou delight thyself in the Lord, and I will cause thee to ride upon the high places of the earth, and feed thee with the heritage of Jacob, thy father, for the mouth of the Lord has spoken it. So this is a promise that if we stay obedient and do the things he said on the Shabbat, that we're going to be blessed. He's going to bless us with the heritage of Jacob, our father. We're going to get the same blessings. We're going to be on top. We're going to have the kingdom. That's what he's saying. And from there, I'm going to just go over to chapter 59 of Isaiah, and I'm going to read verses 1 through 4, and it reads, behold, the Lord's hand is not shortened that it cannot save, neither his ears heavy that it cannot hear. So the Lord hears everything and sees everything. Verse 2, but your iniquities have separated between you and your God Yahweh, and your sins have hid his face from you, that he will not hear. Because he hears it, but he doesn't want to, he's not going to answer you. He's not going to give you what you're wanting if you're being disobedient. That's what he's saying. Verse 3, for your hands are defiled with blood, and your fingers with iniquity. Your lips have spoken lies, your tongue hath muttered perverseness. This is the reason, because our people were going contrary to the scriptures. This is what he's saying. Verse 4. None calleth for justice, nor any pleadeth for truth. They trust in vanity and speak lies. They conceive mischief and bring forth iniquity. This is what he said why they're not getting the heritage of Jacob. Because they're doing all these things that are contrary. And from there, I'm going to go back to the book of Genesis chapter 6. And I'm going to read verses 1 through 8. I'm passing it. This is my big study Bible. Genesis chapter 6, verses 1 through 8. And it reads, And it came to pass, when men began to multiply on the face of the earth, and daughters were born unto them. So now he's saying how they were being fruitful and multiplying. Verse 2, that the sons of Yahweh saw the daughters of men, that they were fair. Just meaning they were pretty or beautiful. They were fair. And they took them wives of all which they chose. So they would go and get the pretty women. They would see the ones they wanted and they would go after them. Verse 3, And the Lord said, My spirit shall not always strive with man, for that he is also flesh. Yet his days shall be 120 years. So the Lord was saying how long men were going to live too. Verse 4, And there were giants in the earth in those days. And also after that, when the sons of Yahweh came in unto the daughters of men, and they bare children to them, the same became mighty men which were of old, men of renown. So he was saying when they would go and get with the women and they would have children, then they would bring other people, other men that were renowned, when they were being obedient, keeping the law, statutes, and commandments. And the giants were just really tall men back in, it was not like the series, The Land of the Giants. Nothing like that. They were just tall men, like big men like Shaquille O'Neal, just big tall men, like a lot of the NBA players. They were big men, or like Goliath, the one David slew. Just big tall men. Those were considered giants back then. Verse 5, And Yahweh saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every imagination of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. So there was a time where they were doing the laws, statutes, and commandments, and then they started to go off. That's what the Lord was saying. And then verse 6, And it repented the Lord that he had made man on the earth, and it grieved him at his heart. So he was upset. And this is why that the flood had came in the time of Noah. So he was so angry that he flooded the whole earth. And only saved Noah and his wife and his sons, because he was so angry. Verse 7, Salakia. And the Lord said, I will destroy man whom I have created from the face of the earth, both man and beast, and the creeping things and the fowls of the air, for it repenteth me that I have made them. So he was so upset with the creation of what he made. Like right now, he's upset when he's looking down, looking at the people just going against him. He's upset. That's why he keeps, all these things are happening. The earthquakes, the floods, the tornadoes, the hurricanes, all these different things. And just whenever it's something going on, it's him at work. And then verse 8, But Noah found grace in the eyes of the Lord. Noah was doing the law, statutes, and commandments. He found grace. And that's what we're doing when we go out. We're trying to build the ark on the Shabbat, and when we're doing these lessons, to bring the people into the ark. We're trying to save them from this destruction that's coming. And from there, I'm going to go to the book of Numbers. The book of Numbers, chapter 16, verse 20 through 26. Numbers 16, verse 20 through 26, and it reads, And the Lord spake unto Moses and said, Salakia, let me read that again. And the Lord spake unto Moses and unto Aaron, saying, Separate yourselves from among this congregation, that I may consume them in a moment. So this was when Moses came back with the law, statutes, and commandments from Mount Sinai and Horeb. And there was people just acting up, they got into idolatry and just fornication, just doing a lot of things that was contrary to the scriptures. Verse 22. And they fell upon their faces and said, O Yahweh, the God of the spirits of all flesh, shall one man sin, and will thou be wroth with all the congregation? So they were asking Moses, but they were really asking Yahweh, because Moses was the messenger. He was the one that the Lord was using to bring those laws. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the congregation, saying, Get you up from about the tabernacle of Korah, and Dathan, and Abiram. So that all these people were going contrary. They were being wicked at the time. Verse 25. And Moses rose up and went unto Dathan and Abiram, and the elders of Israel followed him. Verse 26. And he spake unto the congregation, saying, Depart, I pray you, from the tents of these wicked men, and touch nothing of theirs, lest you be consumed in all their sins. And that's why he says in Corinthians, come out from amongst them. Ephesians, come out. Light has no fellowship with darkness. Of these different precepts, he was saying the same thing. Sometimes you have to come out from amongst them. Separate yourself. He's telling you, and then he'll receive you if you come out from those unclean things. That's what he was talking about with Dathan and Korah and them at that time. And from there, I'm going to go to the book of Job. The book of Job. And I'm going to read chapter 34, verse 21 through 22. Job 34. And it's a lot of meat in Job. Job 34, verse 21 through 22. And it reads, For his eyes are upon the ways of man, and he seeth all his goings. So he sees everything that's going on. We're under the cloud of witnesses. Verse 22, There is no darkness nor shadow of death, where the workers of iniquity may hide themselves. See, there's nowhere we can hide. We're transparent to him. He sees everything. We can't hide from him. And from there, I'm going to stay in chapter 34, and I'm going to just jump down to verse 29. And it reads, When he giveth quietness, who then can make trouble? And when he hideth his face, who then can behold him? Whether it be done against the nation or against a man only. So he can judge a person individually, or he can judge as a nation. Like he did in the time of Noah. He judged all of Yasharallah except Noah, because Noah and his sons, they were doing right. So he flooded and destroyed everybody else. And that's what Zechariah was talking about, how 2/3 of our people are going to be cut off and die. Same thing. It's like the same thing going on. But he said he's going to bring that third part through the fire and refine that third part like gold is refined. And from there, I'm going to stay in the book of Job. I'm going to go to chapter 23. Job chapter 23. And I'm going to read verse 12 through 15. And it reads, Neither have I gone back from the commandments of his lips. I have esteemed the words, this is Job, I have esteemed the words of his mouth more than my necessary food. Job was saying, I wanted to do these laws, statutes, and commandments more than eating the foods for the belly. He wanted to be obedient. Verse 13, But he is one mind, and who can turn him? And what his soul desireth, even that he doeth. He does whatever he chooses. He's the potter. He can do whatever he chooses. 14, and verse 14 reads, He performeth the thing that is appointed for me, and many such things are with him. So he's, in other words, the steps of a righteous man is ordered by the Lord. We're going to do what he's telling us. We're going to be guided by him. Verse 15, Therefore am I troubled at his presence. When I consider, I am afraid of him. This is how people should be. They should have the fear of him. And from there, I'm going to go to Proverbs. I'm going to go to Solomon in Proverbs, chapter 8, and verse 17. And you get there. Like I said, this is my big study Bible. And that reads, this Yahushua saying this. He said, I love them that love me, and those that seek me early shall find me. So he doesn't love everybody. And God doesn't love everybody, because Yahushua was just saying everything the Father told him. And from there, I'm going to go to Deuteronomy chapter 7, verse 9 through 11. And I'm going to close after this one. Deuteronomy chapter 7, verse 9 through 11. And it reads, Know therefore that the Lord thy God Yahweh, he is Yahweh, the faithful God Yahweh, which keepeth covenant and mercy with them that love him, and keep his commandments to 1,000 generations. Verse 10, And repayeth them that hate him to their face, to destroy them. He will not be slack to him that hateth him, he will repay him to his face. Verse 11, Thou shalt therefore keep the commandments and the statutes and the judgments which I command thee this day to do them. So if we don't do them, he's going to repay us to our face. He only loves those that love him. And with that, I'm going to give all honor and glory to Yahweh, B'Shem, Hamashiach, Yahushai, Shalom.